Welcome to the Hockey Writers What's Kraken, a weekly show with our top Seattle Kraken writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from the first ever puck drop to their future rivalries, our team covers everything that happens with the Kraken. So sit back, relax, and get ready to find out what's Kraken.
All right, welcome back to episode 6. This is the THW What's Kraken show, hosted by me, Tom Pepper, Sean Raggio, and Adam Kurzenblatt. Presented by the Hockey Writers, we talk Seattle Kraken hockey every week on iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow us on Twitter at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. So we had a week off, but the season is quickly approaching. We've actually got preseason hockey this week. So how have you guys been over the last, 2 weeks since we last chatted? How are you, Sean?
I've had a time, man. 2 weeks ago, more like 10 days ago, math. I saw a band called My Morning Jacket with my cousin Nicholas. Shout out, Nick. I actually discovered the band through a podcast we've mentioned a bit, Missing Curfew. So shout out to that as well. And it was an electric show. Like, it's one of those bands that, as good as they sound on the record, you have to see them live. Like, they're kind of like a jam band. And at least that's how I would describe them. They got so many different kinds of sounds. They were awesome. And then this past weekend, I got to see the band Camino open up for Dan and Shay, little indie pop and country. It was awesome. And it's been a big music. I'm a big music guy. If anyone sees my socials, you'll see that, especially Instagram. I'm spamming my story with whatever song I got going on. Music Monday song of the day, Flashback by Sub Radio. I don't know if I'm ashamed to say I found that on TikTok, because I feel like, people have their thoughts on TikTok, but this song absolutely slaps. It got me through my day. You got body percussion. You got this intoxicating melody that's just so fun. You guys got to check this out. I'm buzzing right now. And yeah, it's part of that's because of a lot of music.
I'll have to give it a listen. I'm still on a streak. I've never downloaded TikTok, so I'm going strong. But I will have to check out your TikTok song. How about you, Adam? How have you been?
Well, it's been an interesting couple weeks. Last week I was supposed to attend the Vancouver Giants' first preseason game. It was canceled. Because they don't have enough players on both teams due to NHL training camps. And today, you know what? I was driving home from work, and then I'm sitting there, and it's like 30 minutes into the drive, and I'm like, I thought I had the radio on the entire time. I was just, when you're paying attention, but you're just like kind of not. I don't want to say zoned out while driving, but like I thought the radio was going for like half an hour.
You're on autopilot.
I don't know what was going on, but the radio was definitely not on for the entire, for like the 30 minutes until I was like, what am I doing here? So yeah, it's been one of those days, when you work 12-hour shifts, you're pretty tired at the end of the day. That's for sure.
I bet. Still got time for THW What's Kraken though.
Oh yeah, of course. What about you, Tom?
I've had quite an eventful past couple of weeks. My mom is fighting breast cancer right now, so that's why last week's episode wasn't on. I was spending time with her. She's doing amazing, actually. So I think it's going to be a bit of a lengthy recovery, but she's the bravest woman I've ever seen, and yeah, she's incredible. So I will keep you guys updated on that, but everything is going well so far, thankfully. And with that, let's get it rolling here. So the first topic of the day, this happened last Monday. So we missed this because we missed last week's episode. But Ryan Donato signed a 1-year $750K deal. I think almost every single contract we've announced on this podcast has been that exact same figure. But yeah, 25 years old. He was drafted by Boston in 2014, 56th overall. He spent last season with San Jose, 50 games played, 20 points, 6 goals, 14 assists. So another depth signing here for the Kraken up front. What are your thoughts on this? I'll go to you first, Adam.
Well, it's obvious that the Kraken don't want to go with a younger lineup. They want to go with the more veteran experience, because if they did, they wouldn't be signing guys like Ryan Donato. I know he's only 25 years old, but when I'm talking about younger, I'm talking about like the Cole Linds, the Nation Bastions of the world, who are kind of making the next step. Alex True, another one. So, it's a depth signing. He had an okay season with San Jose last year. San Jose was not very good last year. They're not going to be very good this year. But it's one of those where if he plays, he'll probably be in the bottom six. He'll add that energy. But I'm at the point where, I don't really get these signings anymore for depth, because you have the depth already there, and you have to give these young players an opportunity. Like I mentioned, Cole Lind, Alex True, Nathan Bastion. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't have one of those three players in your lineups. And just these latest signings are telling me that the Kraken are going with the vet, or would rather play these veteran players than give these young guys a shot.
It is definitely interesting, also considering they're all 1-year deals. So all these players are going to expire at the end of the year. It's not like they're currently setting it up so they can do long-term development on these guys. So I think we'll have to wait a bit and see what happens with this here.
The only explanation I can think of is that they're just going to sell off all of ththese players at the trade deadline, even if they're in a playoff position. Like, that's the only rationale I can think of. I don't get it. But you know what? If I'm wrong, I'll gladly admit that I'm wrong here. If Ryan Donato goes on to get 40, 50 points this year, I'll be happy about it. So it's I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is.
What do you think, Sean?
Okay, so the magnificent writing team, Kraken writing team at the Hockey Writers, painstakingly, blood, sweat, and tears, put together a forward projection article, right? And then Ron Francis went and signed a couple more forwards, just to laugh in our faces. That's what I think. No, I'm kidding. Sort of kidding. A little salty. Just kidding. Anyway, I think that it's another one of those prove it deals. 1 year minimal. It's really a low risk, high reward. It was a very interesting point that Adam made actually about selling off these guys at the deadline. And I mean, if you get some of these depth players playing well, you can get, maybe not the prized asset back, whether it be prospect or draft pick, but better to sell off a bunch of 1 year contract guys for teams looking to make a push than it is guys who are, if you're making a push, guys who are key pieces to your lineup. Now, I think that I can't necessarily see him playing in the AHL, so I think he would be in line for like a 13th, 14th forward. He'd really have to fight for this spot out of camp. I know that Ron Francis likes his offensive upside, and he's kind of, from what I've read, he's been labeled as a sniper, as a goal scorer, and he's really just got to start doing that. He needs more time on ice opportunity. That's the only way. He's not one of those players, I think, who can get it done in minimal time. I remember liking what I saw from him when he first came in with the Bruins, but I wouldn't necessarily call a 25-year-old 56th overall pick a bust at this moment in time. I think that he's going to have to fight for it, and he's just going to have to prove himself. I think it was a hit of a signing. We were doing these Meet the Kraken pieces, and the way I format mine, I say, is it a hit or miss? And honestly, it's kind of hard. I think, I don't want to be the guy, the yes man who agrees with everything, but to me, it's really hard to see a 1 year minimal, $750K contract as a miss. It's really, it doesn't work out, and we won't resign you. It doesn't work out, or even if it is working out, but we can't really find a permanent spot for you, and we'll get an asset back. If it works out, great. Maybe you'll earn another low contract. It's the what's the word? Impetus. I think it's impetus. The definition is probably the layman term one. I tried to sound all college educated and stuff. It's the definition of a team friendly contract.
Yeah. And hey, maybe there's some untapped potential here. I mean, you look at his stats. He's not bad or anything. Like, he's a pretty decent player. 180 NHL games, 77 points. He can hold his own in the NHL, not necessarily in a top six forward role, but we'll see if maybe he can prove something to the Kraken here, because they've obviously decided to take a chance on him here on this 1-year deal. See, again, like you mentioned, a prove it deal. And we'll see if he can do that. I also have a couple notes written down here. He had 5 goals in 7 games back at the 2018 Olympics for Team USA. So that's an interesting stat. I also pulled out, he had a career high 104 shots this past season with the San Jose Sharks, but that also came with a career low 5.8 shooting percentage. So yeah, Sean,
To riff on that point, how much stock do either of you guys put in let's say specifically to a depth player that, like Donato, that the Sharks were just not really that good of a team last year? I think it'd be different if it was a player like Logan Couture had a really bad year, and the team wasn't bad and wasn't good because he's looked at to be one of the guys to get stuff done. But for Donato, like, the shooting percentage was low, but how much? Obviously, you have to put the puck in the net, but how much of that do you think factors in? He was on a bad team. Maybe, he's got shots on, but they're not quality chances.
Well, like for me, I put a little bit of stock into his line mates. He played with Couture and LeBlanc for 54 minutes last year. He played with Leonard and Gambrell for 103 minutes. He played with Marlowe for 52.6. So he was bouncing around, but he played in the top 6 and he got 20 points. Like, Patrick Marlowe is still an okay player. He can still put the puck in the net. He's playing with Logan Couture and he's not producing. Like, it just seems like he's the type of guy that no matter who they're putting him with, he just wasn't producing. I have to go look back at, into his like other career, but there's also a reason when you hear of a player who's 25 years old, who was drafted in 2014 and he's on his 4th organization now, there's usually a reason to that. Teams don't 25-year-olds who have been in the league for less than 8 years or are 8 years after being drafted don't usually end up in 4 different organizations. So I think there is a little bit of stock to the fact that the San Jose Sharks were just awful last year. But we also have to look at the fact that they were in a division with like the LA Kings. They were in a division with the Arizona Coyotes. They were in a division with the Anaheim Ducks. So that was a weaker division that had 2 powerhouse teams in it, in Vegas and Colorado. So he had opportunities to score. He played those poor teams. And I'd love, I'll quickly look up what his point division per team was, but I don't, but it is something. Yeah, it is something that he did play on a poor team, but if he's getting those top 6 minutes with those forwards, he should have probably had a little bit of a better season.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because he'll be in that same division this year, just on a different side. So we'll see if he can. Maybe he's adjusted now and he's kind of gotten a lot more familiar with the division and his opponents and the goalies he has to go up against. I think this is a potential breakout player, but we'll have to see. Do you have the stat?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. He scored his most points against Minnesota and the second most points against St. Louis. But, LA Kings, he had 3 points. Anaheim Ducks, he had 2 points. He didn't really score against Vegas or Colorado. So it's kind of telling me that this is a guy who he kind of feasts on the lower half of the division rather than the top teams. Minnesota is a little bit of an outlier, but he was a -3 against Minnesota. And he's also only averaging, 12, 11 to 14 minutes per game. So I don't know, like if you're getting put into that situation where your team is, where you're getting put with decent players, you should be able to produce a little bit better than he did.
Yeah. All right, on to the next topic. Donato's name might come up in this again, but the the Kraken training camp begins on Thursday at the brand new Kraken Community Iceplex. So this is going to be really exciting to actually see these guys out there with coaches. They've had these captain skates, which are just informal skates, but they have not had anything out on the ice with Dave Hackstall working on lines, working on building team chemistry and that sort of thing in in-game situations. So this is going to be really fun to see. And I love the fact that tickets are going to be available for fans to go and watch this before they actually take the ice for preseason. So training camp is set to run from September 23rd to October 11th. And that'll include within that time 6 preseason games. First one, September 26th against the Canucks. So I'll ask you guys this. Do you think there's any dark horse candidates that might be able to prove that may not be on the opening night roster right now, the projected roster, that might be able to prove themselves through development camp that you think could break out? Or even a player who's expected to be lower on the lineup that maybe has a good performance in development camp training camp and can maybe work their way up the lineup on opening night. I'll start with you first, Adam.
Well, I think the defense is pretty much summed up. The only problem is that they have too many players that play, I believe it's the left side on their team, or have played predominantly on the left side. So if you're looking at defense, a player that theoretically could get a chance is Cale Fleury. I don't think Connor Carrick is going to be on the team, but I think that you could make a case for Cale Fleury to make it. You know, you could do the Fleury brothers if you really wanted to. Hayden Fleury has played on the left side as well. So I think that you could make a case for Cale Fleury. On the offensive, I do think that with Yanni Gourde out for a while, that the line, which I think is going to be a line of Brandon Tanev, Jared McCann, and Mason Appleton, that they could be elevated into that second line role. And then you have, Eberle, Schwartz, and Wenberg as that first line. And then when Gourde comes back, you obviously put him on the first line, you move Wenberg down, and you switch up the lines. But I think that Mason Appleton, Jared McCann, Brandon Tanev, once the season starts, they're going to be key. I don't think a lot of people are going to be talking about them before the season starts, that line, but once the season kicks off and through training, through preseason, they're going to be 3 players really to watch and see if they can mesh well together.
What do you think, Sean? Any dark horse candidates move up the lineup?
I think that a player who I think is going to make the roster out of camp, but has a chance to move up from, I'm going to use the projections in our the Hockey Writers forward projection piece. I think that Appleton, who is at the consensus at the end of the piece, had him listed on the third line. I think he has a shot to make it up to the second line. I've really kind of preached against using McCann as a center, but I really kind of like that line of Appleton, Tanev, and McCann that Adam just mentioned too. I think that could be a fun line. They could score, but also have some grit, throw it in your face a bit. And what was the guy's his nickname? Turbo Tanev, who I think he's already my favorite player on the lineup. Other than that, I think it's more of I think Riley Sheahan's going to take that 12th spot because of veteran experience and stuff. I've written about that. But as much as I think Cole Lind and Alex Drew can have a strong training camp, I really think it might be best for them to at least start off in the AHL, get, you have a good training camp. Still could be some rust there from getting to full NHL game action. Let them work out any kinks in the AHL, dominate down there, and try and win a spot higher in the lineup than that fourth line role. You want these guys getting prime ice time, especially with injuries. Knock on wood, don't like that. Keep the injury bug away. But I think that they should be careful. They shouldn't jump the gun too quickly, the Kraken. And I think that they're going to play it a bit more conservative, hence why you have some of these older player signings like we talked about earlier. Just to round it out, I think that Sheahan's going to be the 12th forward. Then you got Bastian and Donato at 13, 14, respectively. And if Appleton moves up the lineup, I think it was one of you were really high on him just having like a breakout year. Like this was going to be his year. Was it one of you guys? Was it Matt?
Mason Appleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the Mason Appleton train. Like, I've made this very public. I think almost every time we've talked about him, Mason Appleton all the way. Like,
I don't know if you guys heard that in the background, but actually, I think I gotta go. The train just pulled into the station. I'm getting on, so I'm with you, Adam. I would love to see this kid work his way up the lineup. I have it here from the consensus projections. It was McCann, Yarn Croak, and Donskoy as the second line. I could see Appleton moving up into Donskoy's spot if he really blows them away with this training camp. And I don't necessarily hate Donskoy on the third line either with Johansson and Tanev. Again, that was from the article. So I'm getting on board this train. Tom, are you joining us? Are we pulling into Toronto?
I will be joining. I love all the things Adam said about Mason Appleton, and he's clearly done his research on this guy, and I'm very excited to see. Of course, we think back to Vegas when they came into the league, how many unexpected players just blossomed into these stars, and it's pretty much bound to happen again in Seattle when you put everyone in this situation again. And Mason Appleton, I think, is one of those guys that could really have a breakout here, and this could be an opportunity where he could thrive. And I also love Adam mentioning potentially having Cale Fleury make it out of training camp, and how awesome that would be to have that Fleury defensive. I don't know if they'd actually put them together to start, but wouldn't that just be awesome?
I think per game. I think they're like just like off maybe an opening draw face off, one shift and switch. I don't have my defensive projections finalized, but I am a sucker for a good storyline, a little feel good, warm the heart. Holiday season coming up. I definitely, the parents, their parents would love it, but I definitely, I'm not sure if I'm going to have them slotted in together, but that would be fun. That would be really fun to see. Like, I think there was a game where either all four of the stalls all opened the draw off against each other when they were with Carolina and Mark was with the Rangers. And it was just one of those feel good things. You had the linesman, I think, throw out one of the face-off men in one of the first Kachuk versus Kachucks, so that way they could face off against each other.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. I think I heard a story of Matthews / Brady or something like that off the draw. I forget what it was, but just fun stuff like that.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. You know what? You guys can hold me to it if I'm wrong here, but Mason Appleton will be this year's William Karlsson, like he did for Vegas. I'm not saying that he's going to get 30 goals, but he's gonna be one of these players that people never talked about. I think William Karlsson was starting on the third line in Vegas's inaugural game, if I remember right, and just watch and see.
Excuse the chicken scratch, but I have it written down.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You know what? It's in the internet sphere forever. So I'll eat crow if I'm wrong.
Well, let's hope you're not wrong, though. That'd be a heck of a lot of fun to write about.
One last question I have written down here for training camp is, what kind of qualities do you think Dave Hackstall is going to be looking to build this roster with? I mean, this would have been, honestly, I haven't heard anything from Dave Hackstall in a very long time. I feel like the media hasn't been really asking him much lately, but I'd love to hear more from him and see how he wants to construct this roster. But I do remember him in a clip saying how he really wants this team to be gritty and fast, which two things I love when I watch hockey. So I'll ask this question to you guys. How do you think he will construct this roster? And if it's not how he will be, how should he be constructing this roster? I'll go to you first, Sean.
From the net through the decor through the forwards, it's going to be a very defense first team. And I kind of see, to me, gritty and defense kind of go hand in hand. There's gritty in the offensive end, of course, below the net cycling, but to me, defense and gritty kind of walk together. And because of that, I think you're going to have a strong penalty kill. You're going to have guys who penalty killed. Like, that's one of the reasons I think Shane's going to make it onto the roster. Tanev, again, I could see them being a top 10 penalty killing team just based on a lot of these depth assets that they're bringing in. Have played a lot of time on the penalty kill. So it's going to be, I forget who said it, but a lot of these 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 games more than some of these, you're going to, what was the old saying? The Oilers of the 80s were very much, you may score 7, but we'll score 10,
Yeah, I'm especially excited. You mentioned gritty defenseman. I'm so excited to see how Jamie Alexiak does back there with the Kraken. What did they say? He's the heaviest player in the NHL at the expansion draft. He's awesome, and he comes from a very successful athletic family, of course, too. So I think this is a huge opportunity for him. But what do you think, Adam? How do you think this roster should be constructed?
Well, let's just look at the size of some of these players. You got Jamie Alexiak, 6'7", 256 pounds. He's basically a tank. Like Alex True, 6'5", 201. Carson Soucy, 6'5", 212. Their smallest player is 5'9", 172, and that's Yanni Gord. Like they barely have anybody who's under 6 foot. So if anybody thinks that this team is not going to be physical, then you have not been paying attention, because this team is just going to try to run over their opponents, wear them down, and throw some big hits in front of the fans. It's kind of like, when you think of Dave Haxtell, you think of Philadelphia, and when you think of Philadelphia, you think of the Broad Street Bullies. It's a very similar lineup in that this team is going to be physical. This team is going to make the opponent wish that they weren't in the building playing against them. We might not see as many fights as we did in the 80s, but don't be shocked if this team is pulling some of the near the top of the league in hits by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty heavy hitting team as well. I'm very excited because this is I absolutely love. Who doesn't love watching massive hits in NHL games, one after the other? I think it's going to be incredible, especially when you're introducing this brand new team to a city who hasn't had NHL hockey in the last century. So I think this is going to be awesome. I love how big they've put this roster together and the size and the strength of these guys. So it's definitely going to be exciting to watch. We will reset the show here, and then we've got a couple more topics to discuss. So you're listening to the THW What's Kraken show, hosted by me, Tom Pepper, Sean Raggio, and Adam Kirzenblatt, presented by the Hockey Writers. We talk Seattle Kraken hockey every week on iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow us on Twitter at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. So this week, the national TV schedules came out for, obviously, ESPN and Turner Sports have joined on and signed broadcast partnerships with the NHL, which I think is very exciting. Although I wasn't too impressed with the draft coverage, I'm still going to remain optimistic here. But the Seattle Kraken will be on national TV for 13 games. That was actually the maximum allowed in the broadcast partner agreement. So this is pretty cool. So there's guys like the Tampa Bay Lightning, for example, one of the other teams that I know has 13 games. So it's pretty cool that they're going to be getting this much media coverage and TV coverage right off the bat. So I've got the Kraken season opener is going to be part of a doubleheader on ESPN and ESPN Plus. So that's going to come after the Penguins and the Lightning game beforehand. And those are going to be the only 2 games that day. Turner's first Kraken game is going to be the Blackhawks at Seattle on November 17th. And then the 69 games that are not on ESPN or Turner Sports are going to be broadcast by Root Sports Northwest. So play-by-play announcer John Forsland and analyst JT Brown. That's going to be an awesome duo to watch. I'm really looking forward to listening to those two. So I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about the Kraken getting these 13 nationally televised game? What does this mean for building this fan base up? And how is this going to affect this team's fan base? I'll go to you first, Sean.
This is how you grow the game. Everyone has, Penguins, Flyers, Penguins, Capitals, Rangers, Islanders. Those are what everyone would expect to see. Those are the classic ones. You're maxing out the new franchise, good or bad, for national television games. It not only grows the game in that sense, but it says in a way it legitimizes the team to the fans. It says we're taking you guys seriously. We didn't just add another team to add another team, which obviously isn't. I'm just hoping it wouldn't be anyone's intention ever behind adding a team, but to me, it really legitimizes it in the fans' eyes, and it makes my life a bit easier being on the East Coast and having to figure out what I'm going to pay for to be streaming these games, whether it's Root Sports or some other way. So that helps me a lot out over here.
What do you think, Adam? 13 nationally televised games for the Kraken.
I mean, in Canada, it doesn't really make a huge difference in the way that I'm going to have to view them. But I think that it's exactly what the NHL should do. You have a new product. Why not show it off to everybody and anybody who's willing to watch it? I like that they're splitting it. So, Turner gets some and ESPN gets some. So that way you can kind of expand the viewing audience. And then Root Sports, they do an awesome job, whether it's with the Mariners. So I think that they're going to do an amazing job with the Kraken. And the play-by-play team is going to be great to watch. They've hit a home run with this. There's nothing really we can critique about it. I don't understand why they have a cap on games, especially when you just paid how many millions of dollars to broadcast the NHL. Like, it would just make sense to me that they would try to get as many games as possible and not put caps on certain teams or on each team. Like, you can only do a certain amount per season, but it's a great deal. It's going to really help the Kraken with their national brand. And we'll see how we have to wait and see. We know ESPN knows how to broadcast games, even though it has been a very long time since they have. TNT and Turner Sports, if they do a similar setup to the basketball where they have Inside the NBA, it's going to be awesome to watch. I'm not too fond of who they have on the panel because I feel like it's going to be a little bit boring. I was always hoping that they'd bring Charles Barkley in and to the panel because he's a huge hockey fan. But you know what? Let's see, before we make any final judgments, let's see what they can do. And let's see what this panel is able to put forward.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this. I think this is awesome that hockey's kind of hopefully going to grow a lot here with this expanded TV coverage, because I know me and Adam being in Canada, it's not too hard to find hockey on TV here, but I've heard stories from down in the US of how difficult it can be to find games on TV because they're just all over the place on random channels. So I think it's going to be great that now there's going to be central channels that are very highly watched in the US that people can access hockey to, because honestly, I think a lot of people in the States haven't actually really experienced hockey and tried to get into it because it's been difficult to access for a lot of people. I don't know if you can speak to that, Sean. Do you got any opinion on that?
One thing I know is one that I hear often is that I don't know why I'm watching this. I can't see the puck, which kind of is like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. To me, it's kind of like, well, if you can't see the puck, look at where all, bodies are converging or follow the camera. But it's definitely hard. I know, you can find 4 different sports between ESPN and like the major networks on a Sunday or on a Saturday. But to me, it's just NHL Network for highlights and formerly NBCSN. So I think it's a great thing. I also think that Charles Barkley would be fantastic. I don't remember if it was him that I heard makes like $10 million for doing Inside the NBA, or maybe that Stephen A was the $10 million man. But honestly, with how good Barkley is, maybe they just don't want to pay him what it would take to get him to do an NHL as well. And I just think that having it on, sorry, I'm kind of like just rambling. I just had a couple things I wrote down. Having it on two different channels, two different panels, it's a good way to expand the audience based on giving different perspectives. Maybe I don't really enjoy the Turner show. Well, at least I still have ESPN to go to. Whereas it was just NBCSN, and if you subscribe to NHL Network, you get them. So I think that it gives almost like a second chance for people to stick around with hockey, which I think is huge for huge for the sport. And as for the games, I think it's a numbers game, and I can't. Please, I'm begging you guys, don't ask me to try and do the math to figure that one out. That'd be brutal. We'd be well past the trade deadline probably, but I think that it works down to numbers more than it in terms of trying to get an even amount per team, more than just like, all right, they're at 13, let's give this other team 14. That's just my thoughts based on what we've discussed here. I haven't researched that, so if I'm dead wrong, you can, skewer me on Twitter at Radgio9124, Sam on Instagram, but I post cool things. Be nice.
All right. Before we move on to the final topic, I'll just read out the nationally televised games because I've got them here for our viewers if they don't know where to find them. So October 12th, Kraken at Vegas, ESPN Plus. October 23rd, Vancouver at Kraken, ESPN Plus and Hulu. November 9th, Kraken at Vegas, ESPN Plus and Hulu. November 17th, Chicago at Kraken on TNT. November 19th, Colorado at Kraken, ESPN Plus and Hulu. December 15th, Kraken at Anaheim, TNT. December 21st, Arizona at Kraken, ESPN Plus and Hulu. January 4th, New York Islanders and Kraken, ESPN Plus and Hulu. January 25th, Nashville at Kraken, ESPN Plus and Hulu. This list is getting very long. Okay, March 2nd, Nashville at Kraken, TNT. March 16th, Tampa Bay at Kraken, TNT. March 25th, Kraken at Anaheim, ESPN Plus and Hulu. And then finally, March 30th, Vegas at Kraken, TNT. So there are some exciting games in there. I look forward to seeing the Kraken go up against the Lightning. I think that'll be fun. There's a couple ones in there with Vegas, which of course I also think is going to be a very fun rivalry to watch on top of the Kraken Canucks rivalry. So sounds like there's some fun games that are going to be nationally televised. So that's awesome. And so our final topic of this episode, the Seattle Kraken have announced their helmet sponsors. So not the most exciting topic to end on here, but we might as well discuss it. So on the home helmets, they're going to have the Amazon smile logo with the arrow thing at the end. I don't know if it is a special name or anything, but and then on the away helmets, they're going to have the Climate Pledge logo. So basically, this is just continuing the Kraken's, in my eyes, the Kraken's kind of commitment to a healthy planet and the making the climate a better place. So I guess they're just kind of extending that brand. And I also have a note here again with just their emphasis on building a better planet is how the ice at Climate Pledge Arena is going to be made from rainwater, which I think is one of the coolest things any NHL arena has done. So I'm really excited to see how that all works. And they've put out some videos about the whole process, how they get all the rainwater ready to be frozen and all that. So I think that's very cool. But what are your thoughts on this, guys? I'll go to you first, Adam.
Well, I don't really pay attention to like the sponsorships and everything. Climate Pledge Arena, as I know it, as I understand to know it, it's going to be a pretty incredible arena. It just makes sense that Amazon is their first real sponsor with the logo on the head or on the helmet. Starbucks is probably, or Microsoft, or what you also think of, but I think that what they're doing with Amazon is great. How they're using, frozen rainwater to make the ice in the arena. The fact that, it's carbon neutral it's the first carbon neutral arena in the world or something.
Yeah.
So it's just what the Kraken are doing is going to change how stadiums are built in the future and how teams are managed off the ice in the future. So it's everything is pretty good, I guess. I don't there's no, I don't really have any. I don't.
It's not
I don't
too
think,
exciting. It's just helmet decals.
Yeah, like I don't really think too much about like the helmets. I didn't even notice them, to be honest. What was it when they came in? I can't even tell you when they came in. As long as they don't go to the European style where it's like you can't even tell what team is playing on the jerseys, then they can put whatever they want on their helmets. I guess at this point.
Yeah, that's not looking forward to the jerseys for that fear. But in terms of the helmets, really interesting to see with all the love towards Jeffrey Bezos, the reception of that one. But I'm not the most read up on, the climate and all stuff with the environment. But I obviously know, it's something we have to work towards bettering. I hate, I'll go to the roller rink a couple towns over and just people leave water bottles and stuff. And I hate that. It's needless. The garbage pail is literally 4 steps to your right. You could rollerblade to it if you like. You don't even have to move more than like you push with one leg. It's not that hard. I think it's a great thing. This rainwater too, frozen rainwater, that's cool. That's not just like great. That's cool. Like that's interesting. I want to learn, I'm sure it's more simple than I think, but I would want to hear more about like the purification process, stuff like that. Here's a Kraken content idea. Have a player go, take you on a tour of how some of the stuff is done. Yanni Gordon, the guy we're going to put in a box until he's healthy and be the unofficial mascot. Put him in front of the camera. Do it. He'll be the guy. It's, as you said, this could be revolutionary for the sport in all stadiums, honestly. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm so excited to go to a game there. Honestly, just all the photos and everything I've seen so far. Even the practice facility, the Kraken Community Iceplex looks incredible. This team has really just hit it out of the park with their 2 arenas so far. So this is just obviously the helmet logos are just adding to that kind of brand image. Continue to help save the planet. So I'm fine with the helmet decals. Nothing too exciting there. You guys mentioned the jersey. I think Adam just mentioned the jersey, or I don't know who mentioned the jerseys, but yeah, those are coming into effect next year, which I'm really not excited about. I think we talked about this the last episode as well. That was very unfortunate for me to hear. I wish they would have just gone and put a logo on the pants or something. Like, why the jerseys? I don't know. Why the jerseys?
Yeah, they're going to be sold. The jerseys are going to be sold just regular, right, to fans and stuff like that.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest jersey guy personally, but just I don't know how receptive they would be to having, like a giant Amazon across like the running through the NY Ranger, like the Rangers diagonal, just seeing an Amazon logo or something like that. Assuming it goes full Euro, like we joked about before.
Yeah, I hope it's something I think I said this before. I do hope it's something very minimal. Like Adam was mentioning with the helmets, you barely even notice it. So I was very happy with that. I remember being very worried when they announced they were doing helmet decals in the first place last year, and I was like, oh no, we're getting into this now. But then it was like I didn't even notice them. Like I don't even think I could name 5 teams as helmet decal sponsors. So hopefully they are not noxious.
I will say, and I'll give you leeway. Not you generally. I'll give some leeway if maybe it's a bit bigger, but it's at least it fits. It looks nice. Like I'm pretty sure the Rangers were Chase, and it was literally just like Chase in white on the blue helmet. It fit what they were doing. There was another team, I forget which one it was, but to me it just stood out so much, and it was so much more noticeable than it needed to be. So you really have to do it right. Like a team like, for example, the Philadelphia Flyers, I'm going to harp on them with their orange, really not the worst jersey, honestly. I kind of like that orange. Shouldn't have like big green Starbucks as a sponsor. But that's a Dunkin' team. That is a Dunkin' team. So it also is tough to balance the business aspect with you want your team to look good. You know, we just did reverse retros. Imagine if let's the Coyotes Kachina reverse retro with like a giant green Starbucks. Like I know there's a little bit of green there, but like it's just not. Sorry, I'm hating on Starbucks. Can you tell I'm a Dunkin' guy? No, but yeah, that's just me personally, just my own personal preferences. But it's got to fit, and it's going to be tough for teams to balance that. I think especially with the COVID and the frozen cap because of it, they're gonna have to find a way to walk that line.
I'd love if maybe the Kraken could get just Kraken rum and just write Kraken, and then we can just not worry about it anymore. Oh man. Any final words before we wrap things up?
Well, I can tell you right now, if it looks like I'm typing a bunch of stuff, it's because Canucks Twitter is going absolutely insane because report came out just now that Elias Pettersson has left Vancouver and is on his way to Michigan to train with Quinn Hughes, who also doesn't have a contract, and Elias Pettersson is offer shootable. Detroit has a lot of cap space. So people in Vancouver are not very happy right now. On top of that, we have a giant election going on at the same time. So Twitter is just kind of an absolute storm right now. Let's just say that people in Vancouver are not happy and happy at the same time, depending on if the people that they voted for are being elected, and everything is just a mess.
Oh man.
Vancouver
it's great for a Kraken fan to hear though that those contracts aren't working out there, those negotiations.
Hey, Elliot Friedman has been on multiple shows and has said that Vancouver Canucks Twitter remains undefeated. So there has to be some rhyme to that reason. But yeah, right now there's a lot of people in Vancouver who are not happy. I can tell you that right now, and they are making their voices heard on social media, pointed at one GM, Jim Benning.
Oh God, I really hope whoever he voted for doesn't get leaked.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if you guys ever pay attention to the whole Jim Benning thing, but he was at a supermarket one time when he had just got back from Texas, and people were snapping photos because they were why isn't he in quarantine? But then it turned out to be that he was considered an essential service member, and it was a whole thing about that. So, if Vancouver is very passionate about their hockey. Let's just put it like that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and hopefully Seattle can try to knock them off as a better Twitter sphere.
We'll get our first look at that. We'll get our first look at that Twitter battle on Sunday. Canucks and Kraken, first ever preseason game. That's going to be. Been waiting a long time to see this, so very exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Honestly, at this point, I don't even think people realize that the season is starting in a month, because if you listen to the radio here, nobody's paying attention to any type of preseason or regular season games at the moment. But you know what? I'm excited to watch it. I know all of us are excited to watch it. So let's just get some hockey finally.
Yeah, I'm so desperate. I've been watching prospect challenge tournaments. So I'm just watching any hockey I can get at this point. You're gonna say something, Sean?
Yeah, just kind of a final thought if we're ready for that.
Yeah,
we're good. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna take a little liberty and say, on behalf of our colleagues at the Hockey Writers, we wish nothing but the best for your mom, Tom. Keep fighting, keep battling, and I don't think I can swear, so I'll say kick cancer's butt. We're behind you, we're behind her, so keep fighting.
Thank you. She'd really appreciate it. I'll show her this clip too. I love you, Mom. Yeah, she's awesome. She's gonna kick cancer's butt. All right. So with that, we will wrap it up. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode of THW What's Kraken. We hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to next week as we'll be breaking down any Seattle Kraken news and rumors that come up over the next few days. Again, make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow us on Twitter at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. From Tom, Sean, and Adam, this has been THW What's Kraken.